Hello and welcome to the Grizzled Warmaster. My name is Doug, and today we're going to take a look at the Stormcast. The Stormcast are the poster boys for Age of Sigmar, much like the Space Marines are for 40k. However, they don't get the same treatment that the Space Marines do in 40k. That is, they don't get a new Battletome 2 or 3 times per edition. Nor do they get, kind of breakout Battletomes or supplements for specific Storm hosts. So let's take a look at the background of the Stormcast and make a case for the fact that they do desperately need a new Battletome. Their current Battletome was released in July 2018 with the release of 2nd edition of Age of Sigmar. And while they have had some updates through being included in the Cities of Sigmar and in the most recent Morathi book, those have been relatively minor. The ability to include them in other factions or special characters. Maybe, for example, there have been war bands that have come out for Underworlds. I don't remember the name of the game, the base name of the game. I'm not sure if Underworlds is the specific iteration, but the one where you play cards and miniatures at the same time. Anyways, they did get a number of Battletomes and do have a ridiculous number of Warscrolls left over from 1st edition. And then in 2nd edition, they did get the addition of the Sacrosanct Chamber, which honestly are the best items they have in their Battletome. But anyways, let's go ahead and kind of walk through why I think the Stormcast are in desperate need of a new Battletome. First off, we should say that it is unlikely they are going to get a new Battletome before the release of 3rd edition. There's not enough time, I think, and there are a lot of things stacking up to the point where I am recording this in the 2nd week of February, and we are getting ready to pre-order 2 Battletomes at once. The Hedonites of Slaanesh and the new Daughters of Cain are coming out at the same time. So I think Games Workshop is got too much stacked before 3rd edition for them to come out with a new Battletome. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. Since these guys are the poster boys, I expect that as soon as 3rd edition is released, within a month or two, we'll get a new Battletome for them. Especially since Sigmar and the betrayal of Morathi is pretty upfront and center for what's going on in the Broken Realms. So it's setting it up where Sigmar's going to have to open up another one of his chambers to bring in a new batch of the Stormcast. Not that I necessarily think we need another chamber, but it is a business. They're going to want to sell new models, and I love the Sacrosanct. I think they're super cool models, so I'm not going to complain about it. It's going to get kind of ridiculous how many Warscrolls they have. They do have a huge range of units to choose from. Most of those units have relatively solid Warscrolls. It's just their allegiance abilities that have fallen behind. All of the stuff in their book, I shouldn't say all, most of the stuff in their book is playable, does have a role that it could enter into, that it could function in an army list. A lot of it not competitive. I don't think I would ever take cavalry in a competitive list. They're just too expensive for what they do. But it's really the allegiance abilities that are suffering at this point. So let's take a look at that. They have 3 allegiance abilities. One is Scions of the Storm. That's half of their army can set up in the heavens and strike down, deep strike, as 40k players will know, or old 40k players will know. It's got new names, but it's a really good ability. You can put yourself where you need to go on the board. Now, when you compare this to the fact that the Caradron Overlords can fly high with their boats, every turn. It's not quite as powerful, but it was a really good ability. The second ability is Shock and Awe, which is just a terrible ability. They are -1 to hit on the turn, not round, turn they come down. That means they are only getting that -1 to hit if they manage to successfully make a 9-inch charge. Or if you're playing Hammers of Sigmar and you've got the Gavriel Sureheart, then it might be more sure that they're going to get in, and that -1 might come into play. But still, it is an objectively terrible ability. And the last ability they have are the Storm Hosts, which at the time was a very unique ability. Pretty much, you had the Glades. Actually, it got increasingly less. You have this sub faction within it. Then you get the Cainite temples. Then you've got the Glades for the Sylvaneth. You've got the various, I forget what they're called for the Ideneth, but now pretty much everybody has these. So it becomes less of an allegiance ability and more of a, hey, you can limit your army by going down this path where they get another allegiance ability that's unique to them, and then you're kind of constrained by artifacts and command traits you have to take in order to get that additional ability and the additional, usually a command ability, sometimes a spell or something like that. But while that was an interesting, unique idea, I think when it was first put out there, it isn't anymore, and it's less an ability rather than something that's built into all armies. So let's compare this to something like the Lumineth, who have come out recently. They have their Aether Courts. They've got the ability of which is kind of a sub-ability of their Cathalar to throw off the negative aspects of that Aether Quartz. Then you go down into the unique areas of the Venari or the Alarith, and they have one or two abilities themselves. And this is similar to a lot of other ones where it's like you've got a couple of like army-wide abilities, you've got a couple specific to different factions within it, or different factions. That's not the right term. Different units types within that, or different keywords within that. Then you have the actual sub-faction, which has its unique ability. So they are lagging behind on these. All right. Let's look at that third ability, the Storm Host. Several of the Storm Host are playable. They actually add something to the army, and they've got some great benefits. But there are clearly two contenders at the top for competitive play, and those are the Hammers of Sigmar, mainly because all of their unique characters fall into the Hammers of Sigmar, and that's really the only reason. Their command ability to bring back a limited number of Warscrolls on a 5+, it may or may not be worth spending that command point. Their +1 bravery is pretty lackluster, and then I guess their command trait is okay. The 6-up bubble of Feel No Pain, or damage prevention roll, is good. Their artifact is meh, whatever. There are better ones to choose from. But it's really the fact that you can take somebody like Gavriel Sureheart or the Hammerhand, Vandus Hammerhand. I think it's Hammerhand. Those guys, really are what give Hammers of Sigmar the real strength. The Andals of Heldenhammer, on the other hand, do have one of the greatest abilities in the Stormcast book, and that is their ability to shoot for a command point or fight for a command point. So those are really good. Their rerolling bravery checks is okay. I'm trying to remember sorry, I didn't write down the command traits, because the command trait and the artifact are usually just attacks. There are usually better options, so I consider those attacks, not a benefit. So But yeah, the Anvils of the Helden Hammer, if you want, especially if you want to build a shooting list, are the way to go. The others have some okay aspects, and you could build an army specifically around those, but they're not the greatest. Warscroll battalions. This is a case in the current Battletome where more is less. They are super focused on just a couple of units and usually limited in the number of those units you can take, so that you will rarely be able to get close to just having even a sub 5 drop army. Most of their list that aren't a bunch of hero, or much of their war scrolls that aren't just a bunch of heroes, have no heroes included. And they're like specifically either the most generic units you could take, like Judicators and Liberators, or they're super specialized. There are a couple, like the Cleansing Phalanx, I think is really good. The Vanguard Justicar Conclave can be pretty good, but most of their options are either ridiculously expensive to field just to fill out what needs to be in it, and then totally limit what you can do with the rest of your army, or they just provide mediocre benefits. And I know that getting an extra artifact and getting an extra command point probably should be considered worth 70, 80, maybe even more points, depending on the artifacts that you have available. But I think 70 or 80 is probably a fair price tag to put it. And then the rest of the price is how many guys can you stuff in it, how key to your army are, and how good is the ability you get. And in most cases in the Stormcast book, they're not great. So let's look at a wish list of what I would like to see in a new Battletome. First, I want Skydrakes to be playable. They're such a cool model, and the idea of them is so cool, but 500 points for what they do is just too swingy. You could have a game where you roll fantastic, where you're every round dealing D3 mortal wounds to 4, 5, 6 different units on the enemy's side, which could add up to a significant amount of damage. But generally speaking, why do you want to spend 500 points on such a beast of a model, such a beast of a, it's a beast of a model. It is not a beast in combat. It's decent, and I do like the fact that its jaw attacks can really, really hurt some armies, especially like now, like Lumineth, like Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and guys who focus on or need specific models in their units to work effectively and to work properly. So the ability of the dragon to take those out is awesome. So he's not awful, but he's just not quite playable, in my opinion. He's a little too expensive for what he does, and for how durable he is. No aftersave. And, he's got a lot of wounds, so it does take a little, but concentrated fire, especially now in such a shooting heavy meta, the dragon may not get more than one turn of life on the table, which then can really cut into his usefulness, and at a quarter of your army should be a little bit better. Second, I want heroes to actually be as durable as they pretend they are. It's really frustrating when you can have clearly more powerful wizards in other armies cost less because your wizard is walking around with a 4+ armor save, and that is somehow so strong that it's worth another 20 to 40 points, and I just don't buy that. Generally speaking, the combat heroes in Stormcast are also meant to be a slight buffing hero, and the buffing heroes are supposed to be decent in combat, and they end up not being able to do either of those jobs very well due to limitations. For example, in order for your Lord Celestant to give out his +1 to hit, he has to be in the thick of battle. He has to charge. If he's not, then he's not giving out that bonus. So now he is in harm's way just to give yourself a +1 that another army could have gotten by spending an Aether Quartz or by a War Chanter chanting at them from behind them. So it's really, their heroes need to be retooled. Obviously, we need to expand the allegiance abilities. I'd like to see something where each chamber got an inherent, kind of like we saw with the Venari and the Alarith in the Lumineth, where you break out and you say, hey, warrior chamber models or warrior chamber units get this. Sacrosanct get this. And so on. So that the Vanguard gets something. And it can be something really simple, like in the warriors in round 1 can reroll all saves, and that would be fine. Something like, oh hey, Sacrosanct on the the first round of combat or the first battle round, they get a +1 to dispel, or not dispel, unbind, or the Vanguard get an extra d6 movement before the game starts, or anything like that would be very cool. And then, I definitely keep the Strike from the Heavens. That would be awesome. And then kind of expand from there. Make this Storm... I don't think they're going to go backwards on the Storm host. In fact, we'll probably get more. But kind of dial them in a little bit. Pump them up a little. I think some of them are just too weak. And then finally, let's pare down those Warscroll battalions and make them more useful. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we're just going to go from 8, whatever it is now, 5, 6, 8 pages of Warscroll battalions to 10 or 12 pages of them, or 15, however many it is. I think it's going to just continue to get ridiculously big, but I wish they wouldn't. I'd like them to kind of pare it down, and I'd like to see the ability of Stormcast to maybe put the majority of their army into a single Warscroll battalion. That would be nice. There are a lot of armies that have that ability, but they're not even close. But all right, that's my list, guys. That's my thoughts on a new Stormcast Battletome. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Most important, please subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with a friend. If you liked the video, hit that like button. Until next time, guys, thank you very much, and you have a great day.